Hello friends, Adam here with FED. So today we're going to be talking about the Jagens, which is an archetype, and an archetype is just kind of a thing that, started in one game, and then there's just kind of a character that kind of fits the same theme of that, like, first character, essentially. Generally archetypes don't really mean a lot to me, but Jagen is one that really kind of stands out. And the reason I'm doing this is because it was requested in my Discord server, which you can join by clicking the link down below in the description. This was requested the most. Every Tuesday I ask for tier list ideas, and this one easily won. I think, maybe I have 4 or 5 separate people asking for this one. So we are going to talk about it. So I have, as per usual, our alignment chart here. We have bad and good, just how good and bad of a Jagen I think they are, or just as a unit, how useful they are in their game, how their combat potential, utility, all sorts of different things. And then we have early and late as our horizontal axis. And early and late, what I really am just going to say, I don't want to say they fall off, because a lot of these characters don't ever fall off and they're good for the entire game. But I'm going to say on the early and late scale, where they tend to start being a little less useful than they were previously, if that makes sense. So I'll get into it more when I'm discussing each character. But when I mean early and late, I don't mean they stop being useful at a certain point. I just mean they kind of become a little more lackluster than they were, if that makes sense. So we're going to go in order from FE1 to FE14. We're not going to be doing Echoes or Fates or Gaiden. Echoes or Three Houses or Gaiden, because those games really don't have like a definitive Jagen character, and I don't feel like trying to think of one. And something to also mention, when you're talking about Jagens in Fire Emblem, there tends to be this like weird distinction between Jagens and then they say Oifis are different ones. But it's like a subsection of the Jagen archetype, which I don't really get. I don't know. Apparently Oifis have like better growth and last longer over time. I don't know, like are better over time compared to like your standard Jagen character. I don't like that distinction, so I'm not even going to worry about it. So I'm just going to talk about each of the different characters. So let's do it. So first we have our standard, our number 1, FE1 Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon of the Blade of Light, Jagen, the man who started it all. Look at those spikes on his on his shoulder pads. Those are pretty intense. I kind of love them, I'm not going to lie. As far as combat and utility, in FE1, growths aren't really a thing. So the fact that he has relatively higher bases, I think he has just as good, if not higher bases than everyone in your party when he starts from turn 1. He also has a really high weapon rank, so he can use a Silver Lancet base, which is really, really good. And that's more important than having like good growth or high stats, to be honest. So really high weapon level is awesome for him. And stat boosters in FE1 are just stupid. They just give really big bonuses. So Jagen, honestly, if used properly, can be like your best unit for the entire game. Between really high movement, again, high starting weapon level, and then just, I don't know, just stat boost him. He's stupid good. Him and Marth should be like your best units in FE1. So I'm going to say, like, I don't know. I guess eventually other units might catch up to him once they promote and get some weapon level. So I don't know. I won't put him at the very top corner. I'll put him like right there. But I think he's about as good as it gets. FE1 Jagen's really good. Alright. Now FE3 Book 1, we have, it's basically the same character, except other characters are better, essentially. His weapon level is still really good, so Silver Lancet base is awesome. But other characters are able to shine a little bit more. And I'm not going to lie, FE1 and FE3 are probably the games in the series I have the least experience with. So these ratings might be a little skewed compared to the rest of them. They might not be quite right. But Jagen is a little less good for a little less long, I believe. I don't know. I'm going to put him like here. This one here, actually. And we'll put this one like here. I honestly don't know. This is just kind of a guess for me. Take this one with a grain of salt, FE3 fans. Alright. Then we have FE3 Book 2, which is honestly a completely different game than Book 1. It really is. Just uses a lot of the same characters, if not all the same characters. Aaron. Aaron is... I don't know. He's very much like your traditional Jagen. I don't think he's ever that great. High weapon level. It's kind of like a standard for Jagens, honestly. It's like high weapon level and pretty low stats for their class and level, and bad growth rates is kind of the distinction, right? And this one's hard for me to say too, because again, FE3 is probably my least played game in the series at this point, aside from maybe like FE12. So I'm gonna put it like, I don't know. Someone tell me where this guy goes. I have no idea. I have no idea where this guy and this guy goes. So please let me know in the comments. Tell me I'm wrong. I have no idea, to be fair. So actually, just because of that, I would like to. I'm gonna remove them, just because I'm not confident enough in myself with that rating. I'm still gonna keep this Jagen up here though, because I know he's really good. All right. So as far as FE3 goes, please tell me where those two go. Okay, now FE4. FE4 is an interesting case because it's split into two parts, kind of like three houses. There's a bit of a time skip in the middle. Part 1, there isn't a Jagen at all, aside from like the main character could be considered one, and then I guess you got Quan, who kind of could be considered one as well. But Oifi, who is Gen 2's or Part 2's Jagen, is honestly, oh man, this got all changed. Man, I'm just gonna do it real quick. But Oifi is honestly really good from start to finish. He doesn't get a holy weapon. He doesn't get like these insane growth rates or anything, but everything is passable. You know what I mean? Especially when his join time is great. Right at the beginning, like just a few turns into Gen 2 or to Part 2, and he grows relatively well along with the rest of your cast. He's not going to be as good as Seliph. He's not going to be as good as Ares. He's not going to be as powerful. He's not going to be as powerful as, like, I don't know, anyone with a holy weapon like Forseti. But he is a solid mounted unit, which is all you really need in Genealogy of the Holy War to be pretty good. So I'm going to say he is, like, not as, like, game defining as Jagen. And I think he does fall off a little bit towards the end once you start fighting tons of holy weapon users and just these massive armies of just like tons of magic and stuff. He starts to fall off a little bit. You start relying a little more heavily on your combo of like rescuing Seliph with Leaf and doing stuff like that, or just sending Leaf and Ares in with their high res and stuff, and Forseti Arthur or Forseti Sed into stuff to put some work in. So I have a hard time putting him much higher than like here. When he first joins, he is on par, if not better, than most of your units. So I'm going to put him like as far as like here, but I think he does fall off, like, I don't know, like mid-late game. It might fall. I don't really fall off. I don't know. He's still good, but you know what I mean. All right, FE5. There's a couple of characters from FE5 that we're going to include. Got Avel, who is your Jagen for the first like 3 chapters of the game. She is an extremely powerful sword master. Really high speed, really high skill, enough strength to kill. She'll double everything. She'll rarely get hit, and she has this cute little thing where a cute hidden skill that literally makes it impossible for her to die. So in the first 3 chapters. I guess I should say first 4 chapters, including the Gaiden, or the side chapter, paralogue, I guess you would call it now. So the first 4 chapters of the game, she cannot die. She'll just dodge any fatal attacks, which is pretty fun. But the thing is, she's rarely going to be in like fatal attack range, anyways. So as far as her, she's great. She's like as good as it gets when you have her. The only thing I'd want from her is to be able to like capture things. So I'm going to move her down a little bit, like capture things more effectively, or just be in a place where she can capture. But the problem with Avel is she is only available for like 3 chapters that she's only really good for 3 chapters. Let's say that she's only really good for 3 chapters, and after that she is less impressive, we'll say. All right, and then we have a second one in FE5 to make up for Abel's lack of anything after chapter 3. We have Dakda, or Dagdar, or whatever his name is now. So he's similar to Abel in that he has some weird availability issues, but that's kind of like how the early game of Thracia just goes. A lot of your early game Thracia units have availability weirdness. It's just part of the plot in the game. But he is, as far as combat goes, I'm going to say he's like just worse. I mean, he can use the Brave Axe at base, but that's mainly because the Brave Axe is only a D rank axe that you get in the prologue in chapter 1, which is insane. The busted thing. He has really high con, great for capturing. He's hard to rescue and move around, but that's not that big a deal when you got some indoor maps and whatever else that he is really effective in. He can also use bows effectively. Bows are, I don't know, there's not a ton of units that use bows really well. Of course, there's the Ronin and the Ronin fans out there, but I feel like Dagdar and like, I don't know, Xavier are your best bow units in the game. Like, sorry, Robert, like move over Ronin. We got some actual good bow units here. The problem is just like raising ranks, it takes forever. So I think Dagdar is good for pretty much the entire game. Like, I have no issues with Dagdar, and it's less because of his stats, because stats don't matter as much in Thracia, just because caps are so low and all that. But what's most important are just like his intangibles. And when I say intangibles, they're definitely tangible, but I mean just things outside of stats. Things like his high con, his weapons that he can use at base and stuff. So you know what? Later on, characters catch up to him pretty quickly, like Orson and even Halvan can catch up to him pretty quickly. So I don't know. We'll put him like here. Then you get used like Galsus. I don't know. There's units that I don't want to say that they invalidate him. Like he's super good in endgame too. It's just he definitely gets worse over time, rather than just because people catch up. I don't know. This early late thing I'm realizing is pretty arbitrary. Put him like right there, because he isn't as impressive as like Abel. But we'll do that. Okay. FE6, the Binding Blade. We got Old Man Marcus. Old Man Marcus is really just like Jagen 2.0. It's like literally like the same character, except in a game where just having a high weapon rank isn't going to salvage you for the long run, if that makes sense. So being able to use the Silver Lance at base is awesome, but I don't know. And he has high move as a paladin, which is great. But he won't be as potent later on, just because his stats are so bad for where he's at, and units will catch up to him. You know, once you promote like Alan or Lance or whatever, they're just gonna be better than him. Zealot joins later, is just better than him. Very similar unit, but like better. Or is it Jarrett now? I don't remember his name. Zealot, use the old translation, I think. But Marcus, he is a solid unit early on. You're going to notice that none of these Jagens are really bad. Most of them are up in the top half of the game. I mean, top half of the board. They're all good. I'm going to say he's like right here. Really solid for the first few, like the first like, I want to say like early mid game, he starts to fall off. Starts to be less impressive. Still useful because high movement and rescue are really good, but he still just kind of his use wanes over time. All right, FE7 Marcus, on the other hand. We're going to put him like right here. FE7 Marcus dominates the game the entire time. His stats are insane. He grows well. Awesome weapon ranks, of course. The ability to use javelins and hand axes in a game where enemy quality is so low, and have like they can hit them accurately and kill things on enemy phase with them. So if you play right, you know, buy the right weapons and stuff, perpetual 1-2 range for this guy, which is awesome, and he kills with it. So yeah, Marcus He's just the best unit in the game. He is in FE7. He's so good. All right, Seth is Marcus, except even better. Seth might be the best Jagen in the series, aside from I think Jagen might be the best Jagen. I think Seth might be the strongest Jagen in the series. This is probably partially because FE8's enemy quality is so low, but he is much like Marcus before him. FE7 Marcus, he starts out buff, high weapon ranks, like the rest of the Jagens, of course, and then just keeps on growing. Never gets worse. Like, even compared to like Franz, who is your low level first cavalier you get, who's supposed to grow into an amazing unit. He compares to Franz in the end game. Like, and he just starts off better. Like, the investment in stuff is crazy. It's just such a better unit than everyone else in FE8. Yeah, Seth is good. Titania from FE9, Path of Radiance, is going to go up in the same crew here, except I think she's a little less dominant for a little less long. Titania, I don't know, actually I feel like her most useful times are really just after mid-game, and then after that, like once you get past the Serenus Forest arc, I feel like she is just kind of falls off. But until then, she is like booyah, like super good. But as soon as you start getting like promoted, Oscar, Kieran, Boyd, even like Astrid and stuff, Titania's niche becomes less important, I guess. She's really good, don't get me wrong. Really good, but not forever. Alright, Soth. Soth is a hard one because his early game is tops. 1-2 range with knives, beast killer for Laguz units. Card is it is slightly unreliable, but it does crit relatively often. Usually he'll have between a 30 and 40% chance of critting, which is nice. He dodge tanks well. He even tanks well. He's gonna have he just has like far superior stats than anyone in the Dawn Brigade once you get him, aside from like Volug. So we're gonna put Soth here, I think, in terms of his goodness. I feel like once you get to like anything past the first 10 chapters, he becomes a lot less good. But until then, he's your best unit by far. FE11, which is Shadow Dragon. Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon. Got Jagen again. Jagen's a lot less good here, especially on like the hardest difficulties and stuff, but he's still super important to your team. And I have a hard time rating him because of like reclassing. He can be a dragon rider like ASAP, which is really cool. But he does fall off pretty hard. I will say there does come a time when fielding Jagen feels less and less worth it. Especially if you're like really training an army. I mean, in an LTC setting or whatever, he's still going to be really good with like a Forged Rider's Bane or something. Being able to use things like a Forged Rider's Bane at base is really important. But I don't think Jagen is nearly as good as his NES counterpart here. So I don't know. We'll put him like right here. He definitely falls off eventually. I don't know. I feel like this Jagen's actually really similar to this Marcus. So we'll do like this. I think he's a little better because of reclassing, actually. Ooh. We're going to move you down a little bit, move you down a little bit, and move you up a little bit. Actually, no. Because again, Oifi is more of a slow burn. He isn't quite as good to start off, I don't feel like. Doesn't shine quite as hard when he starts, but he stays consistent. So we'll move him like up here, but like lower. And yeah, kind of like that. I don't know. That might be silly. Just kind of my thoughts as I'm going along. Alright. Fire Emblem, New Mystery of the Emblem, Heroes of Light and Shadow, the longest title in the series, I swear. Or just Fire Emblem 12, FE12. We got Aaron, who has reclassing, which is really important. So he can be a dragon. He can fly, have 10 movement and fly from chapter 1. So the first chapter after the prologue, he just can be a dragon if he wanted to be, which is pretty freaking cool. And Silver Lances are dope. Actually, can you reclass in that early? No, yeah, you can. You can reclass in Chapter 1. You can. So, yeah. Super fast reclassing for Dragoning if you want him to. I think he is about as good as like Jagen, and maybe even for a little less long. I don't know. Is he useful? See, again, FE12 is probably my... FE12 and FE3 I just don't know enough about to confidently put Aaron somewhere. So for now, I'm just going to put him like here. Call it good. Alright. Awakening. FE13. We got Frederick. And like, come on. He never falls off because it's Awakening. And as far as the Awakening cast go, I think he's like right there. Yep. And finally, we have Fire Emblem Fate's Gunter, who really is only a Jagen in Revelation. Gunter's actually really bad, in my opinion. I think this is the worst Jagen in the series. And by the time you get to mid game, or even like early mid game, like you're not deploying him. Once you have enough units to fill up other slots, there's like feels like no reason to. He's bad. The only reason to use him is as a para bot for Corrin, because of his personal ability that gives Corrin like extra attack and stuff with Harsh Command or whatever it's called. But yeah, there you have it. There's my Jagen tier list. This isn't something I'm taking super seriously. I don't know. I probably should have said that at the beginning. But these are just kind of my thoughts, my general perception. Let me know in the comments. Tell me why I'm wrong about everything. I'd appreciate that. Especially tell me where the FE3 Jagen would go if you've played those games. FE3 and FE12. I'm not as familiar with what their placement should be. So I'm really curious what you guys have to say on that. And of course, like the video if you enjoyed it. It means a lot. It helps the channel a lot more than you know. It's just a click of a button. And also subscribe if you haven't. It's free. Press the red button. Makes me feel good. Helps other people find the channel too. It's a win-win for all of us. And then you're alerted of all this hot content. Anyways, thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time, friends.